Hi, I'm Barbara Dillon, Editor-in-Chief of Fanbase Press. This year, we have once again launched our Countdown to the Eisners series, where we seek to highlight the importance of the Eisner Awards, the nominees, and their work. This year, we're releasing 3 videos of conversations with industry professionals, discussing why they feel that the Eisner Awards are impactful, the most interesting categories for them this year, and what they'd like to see more of in the years to come. Thank you for watching.
Best one-shot and single issue. My first published comic was a one-shot. So I always have an interest in that because I know how hard it is to tell the story you want to tell, as the name says, in one shot.
The best short story / one shot, I believe. And that's only because I have a high respect for anyone that can tell a contained narrative.
It's very challenging to build a world, to connect with readers in such a limited amount of pages.
Like, it's easy to go on and on and on. It's like, well, what about my side characters and my B story? And I got 3 acts and but to be able to tell a story that no, this is the story. Particularly in the world of comics where the whole thing depends upon serialization.
There's not much room for fat in that category. You got to have a great story that's nice and trim and hits all the beats you want it to.
This year, best comics related books was an interesting category in as much as there were 4 Kirby Lee related books, which I read, and I already knew much of what the books were saying going into it, of course. And one other book, which was about the art of Thai comics, which I knew nothing about. And now I know a whole bunch more.
Best digital comic, because I really love Everything is Tulip, and I really hope that it wins.
I would say webtoons. Webtoons are kind of a big thing. I know there's a standard ink or color or all this other stuff, but I think webtoons are interesting to me because they're a relatively new thing. I have a webtoon, Demon Bitch, and it's wonderful. It's great, the platform of webtoon, but the genre of webtoons is interesting because you can have so much amazingly good and bad art and stories. You can have people that are absolute beginners and people that are absolute fiends about it. You have Sarah Scribbles and you have Laura Olympus, 2 of my favorite webtoon comics. There's one called Home that was a Korean comic, but they ended it a little while ago. And there's my kitty. But it's interesting because looking at those web comics and how they're produced, sometimes it's just homegrown and sometimes it's a machinery of people working on it.
The Will Eisner Spirit of Industry Award, which is a celebration of the bricks and mortar, the comic book shops worldwide. The Spirit of Industry Award, it's given out to those which not only just do a really good job of selling comic books and stocking the biggest, stocking the best, but more it's a case of, you'll notice it if you have a look at some of those that have been nominated. They're small, they're intimate, they are building up a community within the readers around them. There's people behind the counters who are passionate about comics and are willing to share. And the comic book shops which are nominated, which I have gone into, you can tell they're the ones that someone will come in that they've maybe been sent in by a family member, a kid. One of the, my son happens to read, he reads comics. I want to find out more. Okay, what kind of comics does he read? You rattle off a couple of titles and they just go off and allow them to discover this whole world of stories for themselves.
I've been involved with children's comics for a long time. I was a youth services librarian for most of my library career. And the Eisners, they started expanding those categories in the years after I served as a judge. So I always look for those first. So those 3 categories, the best publication for early readers up to age 8, the best publication for kids age 9 to 12, and the best publication for teens ages 13 to 17. I love that there are those 3 age categories now. And so that means that even more titles are being nominated, and that means we have at least 3 outstanding titles being chosen.
Best ongoing series. Out of the 5 categories, I mean, for me, I mean, 4 on my pull list, and all 5 absolutely deserve the honors. And I don't think anyone would complain if anybody won those.
If you look at the continuing series, you have a book like Department of Truth, which I always debate whether I should put it on top of my stack or on the bottom and save it as like a reward, because I know I'm going to have to set aside time to really dig into a book like that, versus a comic like Immortal Hulk that has this fantastic energy and kind of adrenaline. I just loved that. It's over now, but I loved that series. I looked forward to that every time it came out.
I'm rooting for David Walker's Bitterroot, and which is that's in best ongoing series, and then graphic novel, his amazing Black Panther historical graphic novel is also up. So I want David Walker to win all the things.
And then when you go to the limited series books, you have Daniel Warren Johnson just killing it on the Beta Ray Bill, which is not a character that I ever really cared about in the Thor comics. And he suddenly made me care. And then The Many Deaths of Layla Starr was just such an interesting and rich reading experience that's just unlike any other comic on the stands. And then when we go to like the best new series, The Human Target by Tom King and Greg Smallwood has some of the best art I have ever seen in a mainstream comic. And I've read a lot of mainstream comics. That book is just a gift. And I'm so grateful. If that thing came out once a year, I would be excited. The fact that it's coming out on a more regular basis than that, more than we deserve. And then The Nice House on the Lake, just following up on James Tynion's great like mini empire that he's building in kind of the horror subgenre. And then Ultra Mega by James Herron was the most amazing kaiju battle movie I've ever seen that just happened to be on comics pages. I can't believe that he captured the visceral, amazing feeling of watching an action movie and translated it directly onto a comics page and just did it masterfully. I'm glad I don't have a vote, because I do not know how I would vote on these categories. All of those is just a murderer's row, and I don't even know how you pick.
This year in particular, some absolute belters of some books in there.
Nominations that are most interesting to me are the ones in which the choices that I have to decide between are the most difficult.
You could put a gun to my head and I would not be able to choose the winners for these categories.
I mean, like this year, comics related periodical, no contest, Fanbase, right? Everybody should know that. I mean, the breadth and depth of their coverage that they've been doing for years and years. By the way, this is a unsolicited testimonial here with no kickbacks.